well, here we are again. The government is trying to bind up a weeping sore with rushed, reflexive legislation in a portfolio they do not control. And they are panicked. You can sense the panic across the table. Fundamentally, this is about leadership, the absence of leadership, which is really just another way of saying bad leadership. We have a hapless Minister for Immigration presiding over a running debacle from the middle of last year in his portfolio, and time and again we see this minister unable to impose himself on the situation. Now, governing a country requires dynamic, responsive leadership, not just at the top but across all portfolios, and we're not seeing that at all in the immigration portfolio. Sadly, what we see instead is a flat-footed, confused, panicked minister, and this bill, briefed only to the coalition at 7:30 a.m, 20 minutes' time, just 20 minutes, that happened this morning. And the Australian people deserve better than this, because they expect us to be transparent and accountable when we pass bills of this consequence. And this government has been floundering since the middle of last year, unable to anticipate events as they unfold, with grave consequences for the Australian community. And the handling of the NZYQ case was a case study in failed government. This government has had from the middle of last year, when the High Court had a directions hearing on NZYQ, and it was plain to see then that there would be issues with this case and others like it. Yet the minister, did he act? No, he did nothing. No legislation, no prudential action to protect the Australian community. And at every turn it's been up to the opposition to lead the government. It was the member for Wannon. It was Senator Patterson in the Senate. It was the Leader of the Opposition leading and guiding the government on legislative responses to the case at hand. The opposition has been leading. It's been the tail wagging the dog, which is, frankly, not good enough from this government. Even then, the government failed to act, and we saw 149 criminals, murderers, sex offenders, pedophiles, among others, released into the Australian community. You just can't make this up. No, it's shameful. And now we see the government flapping in anticipation of a High Court ruling on ASF 17, a case of an Iranian man who has refused to cooperate with authorities in Australia and being found not to be owed protection. And if he is successful in his case, it could have implications for hundreds more people currently in immigration detention in this country, who would be released into the community on the basis that their detention is indefinite because they refuse to cooperate with Australia's efforts to deport them. And so here we are, new legislation briefed this morning at 7:30 a.m. for only 20 minutes, rushed. I'm confident the crossbench hasn't had a briefing. And it's right that we call for a Senate inquiry immediately into this bill. You've got the Greens and their affiliates in the crossbench firing their cannons, and they have a point. There's been no due process, no Senate inquiry, but we part company there with the crossbench because we believe in strong borders on this side of the House. It was the coalition who stopped the boat after the debacle of the Gillard-Rudd years. Right. And Labor now, since coming to power, are weakening our borders. And weakness is provocative, and we see that because we've seen about 12 to 13 boats arrive on Australian shores since May of 2022. Now, this bill gives the minister significant powers to direct cooperation of non-citizens in their removal from this country. There's power in this bill, but this bill can't substitute for strong, prudent government and leadership from this Albanese government. This minister is weak. He's unable to impose himself on the situation and is now seeking to slam rushed legislation through both houses without an inquiry. It's not good enough. The Australian people deserve better. They deserve transparency. They deserve accountability. And so this side of the House is calling on a Senate inquiry immediately because we all deserve better from this government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.